Ever wondered why pleasure, something that is innately positive, often comes with compromises and guilt? This is a philosophical conundrum that has likely crossed your mind sporadically, or perhaps more frequently, as you meander through the labyrinth of life. At times, the question resonates in our minds with a clarity that seems to eclipse everything else. It is a question that has long held philosophers, psychologists, and thinkers captivated, and continues to baffle us to this day. As we navigate through this journey of life, we encounter instances where we are faced with a paradox of sorts. Here, what should be a purely positive experience, something that uplifts our spirits, is often marred with feelings of guilt and regret. We are faced with a conflict between our pursuit of happiness and the societal norms of what constitutes ethical behavior. This elusive sensation of satisfaction that we so crave for, that we dream to get lost in, seems to always be accompanied by a shade of negativity. It is as if there's a shadow that looms in the background, a specter of guilt that seems to we experience. It's a strange paradox, a contradiction that we never quite seem to fully understand. A question that we repeatedly find ourselves asking is, why does something so enjoyable, something so inherently positive, carry the burden of guilt? This is an enigma that makes us question the very nature of pleasure itself. It makes us delve into the depths of our own consciousness, exploring the realms of morality, ethics, and personal values. Pleasure, by its very definition, should be an experience that uplifts us, a cherished moment that brings a certain zest to our otherwise mundane lives. It should be a feeling that is unfettered from any negative association. It should be devoid of guilt-laden compunctions. But the harsh reality is that the moment we succumb to this feeling, we find ourselves engaged in a moral tug-of-war, grappling with our conscience. It's a battle that takes place within us, a struggle between our yearning for satisfaction and our principles. It's almost as if we're constantly at odds with ourselves, caught in a crossfire between our desires and our sense of ethics. We find ourselves compromising our personal values, crossing those lines that we had vowed never to cross, all in a desperate pursuit of this elusive sensation of pleasure. But is this how it needs to be? Should our path towards pleasure really be laden with feelings of guilt and sacrifice? A common belief that is firmly etched in our minds is that pleasure always comes at a cost. It's a notion that has been indoctrinated into our thought process, a belief that we've come to accept as an absolute truth. But let's take a step back and challenge this preconceived notion. Let's dissect it, scrutinize it, and question its validity. Imagine a world where pleasure not just accepted, but wholeheartedly celebrated. A world where it's not considered a guilty indulgence, but rather an integral part of our existence. A world where pleasure is consensual, respectful, and free from any guilt. A world where we're not compelled to compromise our values, to cross boundaries, to pay a price for our happiness. This world may seem like a far-fetched utopia, a dream too good to be true. But what if I told you that this world could be our reality? What if I proposed that it's possible to shift our narrative around pleasure, to rewrite the rules, to redefine our perceptions? What if we could usher in a new era where pleasure isn't accompanied by a sense of guilt, but instead is celebrated for what it truly is? Indeed, there is a way to eliminate these compromises and guilt associated with pleasure, to step into of guilt-free indulgence. A world where pleasure and respect coexist harmoniously, where each moment of joy is celebrated without any guilt or regret. A world where we can embrace pleasure without any guilt-induced inhibitions. In this world, the lines between pleasure and guilt are clearly delineated, and they never intersect. It is a world where we can satiate our desires without compromising our values. This is not a fantasy, but a possibility. Indeed, it is a possibility that we can make a reality. So let's challenge the norms, the status quo, and embrace pleasure in its purest form, free from any compromises and misconceptions. Breaking free from the pleasure-guilt cycle doesn't require a magic wand, but a substantial shift in perspective. We often attribute pleasure to short-lived enjoyment, a guilty indulgence, or a surprise gift. What is required is a deeper understanding of the true essence of pleasure, which is often misunderstood and laden with misconceptions. The essence of pleasure lies in its diversity. It's not only about the transient joy of enjoying your favorite dessert or the rush from an intense game. Pleasure encompasses shared laughter with friends, the tranquility of reading a book, the satisfaction of achieving a long-awaited goal, and other moments that bring pure happiness. Next, we turn our attention to an essential element: consent. Consent underlines the importance of personal boundaries. It's not merely about expressing your interest or disinterest, but about understanding and respecting the boundaries defined by others. This respect extends from simple choices like deciding on a movie for an evening hangout to complex, like forming intimate relationships. Personal boundaries act like a guide to your comfort zone, a protective barrier against discomfort. It's about recognizing when you're being pushed beyond your comfort zone and knowing when to express your discomfort. Respecting these boundaries, both yours and others, is not just significant, it's crucial. It's the foundation, healthy relationships, the backbone of trust, and the symbol of mutual respect. It involves creating an environment where everyone's boundaries are and respected, where no one is forced into uncomfortable situations. Effective communication is the lifeblood of successful relationships. It's about not only voicing your needs, but also understanding, acknowledging, and respecting the needs of others. It encompasses engaging in discussions, addressing uncertainties and concerns, and creating a safe space for open dialogue. Think of communication as a bidirectional path. It's a conversation where everyone's views, ideas, and emotions are acknowledged and appreciated. It's an ongoing process of learning and growing together, of sharing and empathizing. Understanding your boundaries and comfort zone is the initial vital step in this journey. Remember, effective communication is the key form of pleasure, be it physical or emotional, solitary or shared. It's the bridge that connects two individuals, facilitating understanding and harmony. And comprehension of your own boundaries, recognizing your comfort zone, is the first pivotal step in this journey. So, how do you embrace this guilt-free pleasure? This is a question that many of us wonder about. The key to unlocking this mystery lies in an understanding of oneself, your yearnings, your aspirations, your personal boundaries and limitations. This voyage towards self-discovery initiates the development of self-awareness. It's about becoming conscious of where your happiness stems from, and also discerning what acts as a catalyst for your negative emotions. This self-realization forms the very initial stride towards the acceptance of guilt-free pleasure. It can be compared to charting out your individual topography of joy and euphoria. Acquainting what brings you satisfaction and what doesn't arms you with a navigational map. This map, in turn, leads you through the various convolutions and diversions of life, towards those experiences that instill in you a sense of delight. It's crucial to identify and highlight your sources of pleasure and the lines you do not wish to cross before embarking on this journey. Following this, the next step on the ladder is to establish open communication. In scenarios where you're engaged in an activity with others, it's paramount to voice your aspirations and limitations in an unequivocal manner. This exchange of information should not be a one-sided conversation, but a two-way dialogue. It encompasses listening, understanding, acknowledging the aspirations and boundaries of others. Joint comprehension forms the very basis of guilt-free pleasure. It can be likened to the act of choreographing a dance where every movement, every step is clearly communicated, fully respected, and reciprocated with equivalent zeal. This mutual respect and understanding build the foundation of a guilt-free, enjoyable experience. Let's take the example of having a meal to elucidate this concept. As you savor each morsel, you're cognizant of the satisfaction it brings. But once you start to feel satiated, you cease to eat more. This is your personal limit, and honoring it allows you to relish the meal minus the guilt. In a similar context, during a social gathering with friends, you bask in the camaraderie, the shared smiles and laughter. But when exhaustion sets in, you withdraw gracefully, honoring your need for recuperation. Once again, it's the recognition of your personal limits that facilitates a truly guilt-free encounter. Debunking misconceptions forms a vital component of this journey too. Pleasure isn't synonymous with decadence, a sign of frailty or extravagance. Rather, it's a fundamental human privilege. It's about striking a balance, tiptoeing on the line of excess. It's not a selfish act. Rather, it equates to self-care, treasuring your mental and physical well-being. By understanding and embracing these concepts, you can begin your journey towards experiencing pleasure without compromises, guilt-free,